we've got another ending here. Super Sprint marks the last port of an Atari arcade game to the Famicom. Some of you might be about to post a comment, to which I say, wait for that episode. Of course, by 1991, the torch had long been passed from Atari to Nintendo as the leader of the video game industry. Super Sprint is actually the final entry in a long-running series. It dates back to the 70s, where this top view racer was the biggest arcade game around in that period between Pong and Space Invaders. Super Sprint updated the black and white graphics and added a third steering wheel to the cabinet so that 3 human players could race against each other and 1 AI. This port of Super Sprint still has 4 cars on the track, though it supports a maximum of 2 players, even on the Famicom, where you only need 1 extra controller to have 3 players. It's as simple as racing games can get. Complete 5 laps first and you win the race. If you're beaten, then it's game over, but you can automatically continue just by pressing B. If you care about your score, you get points as you drive, and for collecting the red tiles that have numbers in them. But points don't do anything for you. The really valuable item are the wrenches. If you've collected 2 of them and you win the race, then you go to a shopping menu where you can upgrade your car. You can get a higher top speed, better handling, faster acceleration, or extra points for some reason. Wrenches carry over between races, and if you have more than 2 wrenches when you go to the shop, you'll keep the extra ones. There are 7 tracks in Super Sprint, 1 fewer than the arcade version, and you just loop through them endlessly. There are a few changes as it progresses. The first few times through the loop, additional obstacles are added. On the first 7 levels, you'll have a tornado that comes through. It'll spin your car out if you touch it. The second loop adds more oil slicks and puddles, while putting up traffic cones that will slow you down if you bump into them. The third loop adds bollards which come up and down on the track, blocking your path. If you collide with something at high speed, your car explodes, but you come back after a couple of seconds. After the third loop, no more obstacles get introduced. From that point on, you just keep looping. For some reason, they decided that the first stage is level 0 instead of level 1. Yeah, I know that's how computers count, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to a user. I suspect that this might be the reason that the whirlwind starts appearing in the second race when it's a second loop obstacle in the original arcade version. The tracks in Super Sprint are fine, but not really inspired. If I asked you to sit down and sketch out a few tracks for an overhead view one-screen racing game, these are probably exactly what you'd come up with. You've got the obvious crossovers, tight turns, and tunnels. 2 of the stages have shortcuts where you can go off-road briefly, but none of these tracks are going to make you go, ooh, that one's really cool. Oddly enough, as you go through the loops, the difficulty keeps resetting. The first track always has you race against really slow cars, and the last track always has you race against fast ones. So some tracks are always more difficult than others. And on those last couple of tracks, if you mess up once, you're almost definitely not going to be able to win. The real meat of Super Sprint is the 2-player race mode, and progress only requires that a human player comes in first. It doesn't matter which one it is. Surprising to me, Super Sprint seems to have a small but dedicated following in Japan. The publisher Ultron has a bad reputation for releasing some of these games that were developed outside of Japan that are truly awful. And people point to Super Sprint as the one time they got it right. I can't say I'm really fond of Super Sprint myself. It's not bad, it's just not really my thing either. I think I'd need either more power-ups or more tracks. It's not like Super Sprint does anything wrong, it's just doing something that I personally didn't find a lot of fun.